this video, we're going to learn how to draw a straight line graph. A typical question might say, on the grid, draw the graph with equation y equals 3x minus 1, for x values between -2 and 3. And of course, they'll give you a grid to draw this on. To do a question like this, we need a table of values. Sometimes the table is already given to you in the question, but if not, you'll need to draw one yourself. So for this one, I'm going to draw a table like this, and the top row is going to be for x values, and the bottom one is for y values. The x values are usually given in the question, and you can see in this one it says x values go between -2 and 3. So we're going to write down all of the whole numbers from -2 to 3. So -2, -1, 0, 1, 2, and 3. We just need to work out the corresponding y values, and to do this we're going to use the equation given in the question, y equals 3x minus 1. So if we take this equation, we're going to substitute x values in to work out the corresponding y values. I like to start with x equals 0 because that's an easy one to do. So if we substitute 0 into this, that means we replace the x with a 0, so instead of 3 lots of x, it's 3 lots of 0. We can now work this out and it will tell us the y value. 3 lots of 0 is just 0, so this is 0 take away 1, which is -1. So if x is equal to 0, the corresponding y value would be -1. Now let's try when x is equal to 1. So this time it will be y equals 3 lots of 1 take away 1. 3 lots of 1 is just 3, so it's 3 take away 1, which is 2. So if x is equal to 1, y is equal to 2. We then just continue this process for all of the x values. So when x is equal to 2, we do 3 lots of 2 take away 1. 3 lots of 2 is 6, and 6 take away 1 gives you 5. So when x is 2, y is 5. Now let's try when x is equal to 3. We do 3 lots of 3, take away 1. 3 lots of 3 is 9, so 9 take away 1, which is 8. So when x is 3, y is 8. Now let's go back and do those negative values. Let's start with -1. So we need to do 3 lots of -1, subtract 1. 3 lots of -1 is -3, so we've got -3 subtract 1, which is -4. So when x is -1, y is -4. And finally, if we do when x is -2, we do 3 lots of -2, which is -6, so -6 subtract 1 is -7. So when x is -2, y is -7. We've now completed the table of values. Notice how to get from 8 to 5, we subtract 3, and to get from 5 to 2, we also subtract 3, and it's the same from 2 to -1, or -1 to -4, and -4 to -7. This will always be true of a straight line graph, and sometimes this can be useful for finding some of the values, especially the ones where x is a negative number. All we need to do now is plot these as coordinates. So the first coordinate will be when x is -2 and y is -7. That corresponds to the coordinate -2, -7, which goes here. Then we have -1, -4, that one goes here. Then we have 0, -1, that's here. 1, 2 goes here. 2, 5 goes here, and finally 3, 8 goes here. You can see they form a perfect straight line. All we do now is take a ruler and join these up, and that's the answer to the question. Now let's try a second example. This time we're going to do the graph of y equals 2x plus 5, and the x values go between -1 and 4, and here's the grid we need to draw it on. So again, we'll need a table of values. So we draw that out and put x and y, and we get the x values from the question. They go between -1 and 4. So we've got -1, 0, 1, 2, 3, and 4. Now we need to work out the corresponding y values, and we'll do this using the equation here. So y is equal to 2x plus 5. Once again, let's start with x equals 0. That's an easy one to do. So we're going to replace the x in this equation with 0. So instead of 2 lots of x, it's 2 lots of 0. 2 lots of 0 is just 0, so we have 0 plus 5, which is 5. So if x is 0, y is 5. Now let's move on and look at when x is equal to 1. So let's replace that x with a 1. We've got 2 lots of 1 plus 5. 2 lots of 1 is just 2. So we have 2 plus 5, which is 7. So if x is 1, y is 7. Now let's do when x is 2. So 2 lots of 2 plus 5. 2 2s are 4. So 4 plus 5, which is 9. So if x is 2, y is 9. Then let's do when x is 3. So 2 lots of 3 plus 5. 2 3s are 6. So 6 plus 5, which is 11. So when x is 3, y is 11. And we'll do when x is 4, so 2 lots of 4 plus 5. 2 4s are 8, so it's 8 plus 5, which is 13. So if x is 4, y will be 13. Now we need to go back and do when x is equal to negative 1. So we could substitute in negative 1, or we could look at that pattern that I showed you before. Notice how going from 13 to 11 we subtract 2. From 11 to 9 we subtract 2. We keep subtracting 2 as we go in this direction. So if we just subtract 2 from this 5 here, we end up with 3. So if x is negative 1, y will be 3. This technique will only work when you have straight line graphs like this one here. Now all we need to do is just plot these as coordinates. So negative 1, 3, that goes here. 0, 5, that goes here. 1, 7 goes here. 2, 9, 3, 11, and 4, 13. You'll see once again these form a perfect straight line, so if you take a ruler and join those up like this, that will be the answer to the question. Now let's try a trickier example. For this one, we're going to draw the graph with equation y equals negative 2x plus 10, and the x values are going to go between negative 1 and 4. So we'll begin by drawing out the table once again, and we have x values and y values, and we're told the x values go from negative 1 to 4. So let's put those in. Then we'll use this equation here to generate our y values. So y equals negative 2x plus 10. And we'll start with 0 once again. So let's substitute the x for 0. It's negative 2 lots of 0 plus 10. Negative 2 multiplied by 0 is 0. So we have 0 plus 10, which is 10. So if x is 0, y is 10. Now let's move on and substitute 1 in. So this time we replace x with 1. We've got negative 2 lots of 1 plus 10. Negative 2 multiplied by 1 is negative 2. So we have negative 2 plus 10. If you struggle with questions like this with negative numbers, then I'd recommend using a number line. To do negative 2 plus 10, we start at negative 2 and go 10 places to the right. So 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. Since we end up at 8, negative 2 plus 10 must be 8. So if x is 1, y will be 8. Now let's move on to x is 2. So we've got negative 2 lots of 2 plus 10, which is negative 4 plus 10. Again, you can use a number line for this, and you'd end up at 6. So when x is 2, y is 6. Now let's do when x is 3. So negative 2 lots of 3 plus 10. Negative 2 times 3 is negative 6. So negative 6 plus 10, which gives you 4. So if x is 3, y is 4. And let's move on to when x is 4. Negative 2 lots of 4 plus 10. Negative 2 times 4 is negative 8. And negative 8 plus 10 is 2. So when x is 4, y is 2. To work out the value of y when x is negative 1, I'm going to use that trick again. To get from 2 to 4, you add 2. To get from 4 to 6 is also add 2. And so 6 to 8 and 8 to 10. So all I need to do is add 2 to 10, and 10 plus 2 is 12. Now I can plot these as coordinates, negative 1, 12, 0, 10, 1, 8, 2, 6, 3, 4, and 4, 2. You'll see once again these form a perfect straight line, so if you join them up with a straight line using a ruler, you'll end up with this as the answer. Now let's have a look at a second example where there's also a negative. So y equals 14 minus 4x. And for x values between negative 2 and 3. So let's draw out the table of values, and we've got x and y, and the x values are given in the question. They go from negative 2 to 3, and we'll use this equation here to generate the y values. So y equals 14 minus 4x. Let's start with x equals 0, so let's substitute in 0 for x. Then we've got 14 minus 4 lots of 0. Now we need to be careful about the order of operations here. We've got a subtraction and a multiplication, and the order of operations says we do the multiplication first. So the first thing we do is work out 4 lots of 0, which is obviously 0. So we've got 14 subtract 0. 14 subtract 0 is just 14. So when x is 0, y is 14. Now let's move on to when x is 1. So now we replace the x with a 1. So we've got 14 take away 4 lots of 1. So we do 4 multiplied by 1 first, which is 4. So it's 14 subtract 4. 14 subtract 4 is 10. So when x is 1, y is 10. Now for x equals 2, we do 14 subtract 4 lots of 2. 4 lots of 2 is 8, so it's 14 subtract 8, which gives you 6. So when x is 2, y is 6. And then for x is 3, we do 14 take away 4 lots of 3. 4 lots of 3 is 12, so 14 subtract 12, which is 2. So when x is 3, y is 2. Now let's go back and do negative 1. So we need to do 14 subtract 4 lots of -1. 4 multiplied by -1 is -4. So we've got 14 subtract -4. Whenever you subtract a negative number, we just add the positive version of the number instead. So this is the same as doing 14 plus 4. 14 plus 4 is 18. So when x is -1, y is 18. And on to the final one, x is -2. 14 subtract 4 lots of -2. 4 lots of -2 is -8. So we could do 14 subtract -8. Once again, we're subtracting a negative number here, so this is the same as 14 plus 8. 14 plus 8 is 22. So when x is -2, y is 22. If you find negative numbers a bit difficult, we could have used the trick to work out the values for -1 and -2. To get from 2 to 6, you add 4. To get from 6 to 10 is also add 4. And then if we keep adding 4, 14 plus 4 would have gave us 18, and 18 plus 4 would have gave us 22. Now let's go ahead and plot this graph. So -2, 22, -1, 18, 0, 14, 1, 10, 2, 6, and 3, 2. And again, it forms a straight line, so you join that up with a ruler, and there's the answer to the question. For this next question, the equation is going to look a little bit different again. This time we're going to do y equals half x take away 1, for x values between -2 and 4. So we draw the table of values, and we have x and y, and we know the x values are going to go from -2 to 4. So this time we're going to use the formula y equals 1/2 x minus 1. We'll start with when x is 0, so if we replace the x with a 0, we've got half of 0 subtract 1. Half of 0 is just 0, so we have 0 subtract 1, which is -1. So when x is 0, y is -1. Now when you have an equation with half x in it, it's easier to work with the even values of x first. So I'm going to skip out 1 for now and move on to 2. So when x is 2, we've got half of 2 subtract 1. When you do half of 2, you get 1, so we've got 1 take away 1, which is 0. So when x is 2, y would be 0. Now let's skip out 3 and move on to 4. So let's replace the x with a 4. We've got half of 4. Half of 4 is just 2, so it's 2 take away 1, which is 1. So when x is 4, y is 1. Now we can even go back and do the -2. If we replace x with -2, we've got half of -2. Half of -2 is -1, so we've got -1 subtract 1, which is -2. So when x is -2, y is also -2. Now let's go back and do the odd numbers. So let's go for when x is 1. So we've got half of 1 take away 1. Half of 1 is just a half, or 0.5. So we have 0.5 take away 1. If you do 0.5 take away 1, you get -0.5. So when x is 1, y is -0.5. Now let's go and do when x is 3. So we've got half of 3 take away 1. If you half 3, you get 1.5. So we've got 1.5 take away 1, which is 0.5. So when x is 3, y is 0.5. And for the final one, when x is -1, half of -1 is -0.5. So -0.5 subtract 1 is -1.5. So this completes the table. We're now ready to plot these as coordinates. So -2, -2, -1, -1.5, 0, -1, 1, -0.5, 2, 0, 3, 0.5, and 4 with 1. You can see again, these form a straight line, so join that up with a ruler, and there's your answer to the question. Sometimes these questions can have a follow-up question. Let's have a look at what one of those might look like. So in this question, the graph of y equals 10 minus 2x is shown on the grid. So they actually draw the graph for you. And then we could be asked to draw the graph of y equals x plus 1 for x values between 0 and 4. I'll do this really quickly since we've practiced this a lot. We'll draw out a table, put x and y values in. The x values go between 0 and 4, and we'd work out the y values, which would actually be 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. We then plot all of the coordinates and join those up to make the straight line. So that could be part A of the question. But part B is what we're interested in. Use your graph to solve the equation 10 minus 2x equals x plus 1. Notice how the left-hand side of the equation, 10 minus 2x, perfectly matches the graph they drew for us, y equals 10 minus 2x. And then also, the right-hand side, x plus 1, matches the graph that we drew, y equals x plus 1. So to solve this equation, we're looking for an x value where 10 minus 2x gives the same value as x plus 1. This just means we're looking for where the graphs give the same value, which is where they cross. You can see the graphs intersect at this point here. Now we're looking for an x value to solve this equation, so if you go down from this point to the x-axis and read off that value, you can see it has x coordinate 3. So the solution to this equation is where the two graphs cross, which is when x is equal to 3. Let's have a look at a second example. So as with the last question, they draw one of the graphs for us. So they've drawn y equals a half x plus 1. And then we'll be asked to draw an extra one. So we need to draw y equals 3 minus x for x values between negative 1 and 4. Once again, I'll do this quickly. So we've got a table of values for x and y. The x values go between negative 1 and 4. And I'd start with 0 and work out the y values, which would be 3, 2, 1, 0, negative 1. And then I'd go back and do when x is negative 1, and the y value for that is 4. Then I'd plot all of these as crosses onto my diagram and join them up with a straight line, and that would be the answer to part A. Now part B is the new bit. Use your graph to find an approximate solution to half x plus 1 equals 3 minus x. And it says to give your answer as a decimal. Notice once again that the left side of the equation matches the graph they drew, and the right-hand side of the equation matches the graph that we drew. So we're just looking to find where the graphs cross, which is this point here. So if we now draw a vertical line down from that point to the x-axis, we just need to read off that value, and that will solve the equation. Notice this time we've been asked to give the answer as a decimal. So we can see this number lies somewhere between 1 and 2. Each one of those small squares would represent 0.2. So that line is in between 1.2 and 1.4. So we'd probably say it's about 1.3. So the approximate solution to this equation is x equals 1.3. For the final part of this video, we're going to look at how you draw some graphs that are in a slightly different format. So let's have a look at the graph with equation x plus y equals 4. If we look at the graphs we've drawn so far in this video, you can see they have something in common. They all start with y equals. That's different to the graph we're going to draw. Our graph is x plus y equals. This means we're going to use a different technique. What we do is we take the equation, and we start by substituting x equals 0. So if we take the equation and replace x with 0, instead of x plus y equals 4, it would be 0 plus y equals 4. Now 0 plus y is just the same as y, so we could actually remove that 0 completely, and it would just say y equals 4. This tells us that when x is equal to 0, y is equal to 4. If x is 0 and y is 4, that's the coordinate 0, 4. This tells us the point 0, 4 must be on the line. So to work out this point, we substituted x for 0. We can also work out another point by substituting y for 0. So let's take the equation again and substitute the y for 0. Just like before, this 0 doesn't really need to be there. X plus 0 is just the same as x. So we find that x is equal to 4. If x is 4 and y is 0, this corresponds to the point 4, 0. So we've now found 2 points that are definitely on the line. So if we plot those on the diagram using crosses, we've got 0, 4 and 4, 0. If we draw a straight line between those, that must be the line. Now let's have a look at two further examples that also use this technique. First of all, 2x plus 5y equals 10. We're going to start by substituting x for 0 first. So if we take the equation and we're going to substitute x for 0, we've got 2 lots of x, or 2 lots of 0, which is just 0. As with the previous example, 0 plus 5y will just be 5y. So we end up with 5y equals 10. Now last time we ended up with the value of y immediately, but this one we've got to do a little bit more work. If 5y is equal to 10, we can divide both sides by 5. If you divide the left by 5, you get y, and the right by 5, you get 2. So we find that y is equal to 2. So when x was 0, y was 2. This corresponds to the coordinate 0, 2. Now let's do the same thing, but substitute y for 0 instead. So we take the equation, and where we've got 5y, we've got 5 lots of 0. And 5 lots of 0 is 0. So we've got 2x plus 0, which is the same as 2x. So we end up with 2x equals 10. Divide both sides of this by 2, and you'll find that x is 5. So when y is 0, x is 5. This corresponds to the coordinate 5, 0. So if we plot both of these points, 0, 2 and 5, 0, draw a straight line between them, that must be the line. And for one final example, we're going to do 3x plus 2y equals 12. So we start with x equals 0. So we replace the 3x with a 0, and we have 2y equals 12. If 2y equals 12, we can divide both sides by 2, which gives you y equals 6. So when x is 0, y is 6. That corresponds to a coordinate of 0, 6. Now let's do y equals 0. So take the equation, but replace that 2y with 0. So we have 3x equals 12, divide both sides by 3, and you find that x is 4. So when y is 0, x is 4. This is a coordinate of 4, 0. So if we plot on 0, 6, and then 4, 0, join them out of a straight line, that must be that graph drawn.